Okay, welcome everyone for the talk to beta. We have Guido Stevens here. He's going to start and he's going to have Collective.Collabora real-time document collaboration, and we will also have a second presentation by Benoit Lebright and Chris Adam. Yes, can we have applause for our presentation?
Yeah, so this is a combined presentation about a project we did together about building real-time document collaboration into Plone based on Collective.Collabora. So first I'll show what Collective.Collabora is, what it does, and I will show a bit how it works in Quave. And then Chris and Benoit, they will show how they did their own integration into Imio. And it also shows how easy it is to actually build this capability into your own custom product. Houston, we have a problem. It's the year of the Lord 2025, and this is how file editing looks like in Plone. You just have a schema, and then you just have to replace that file with whatever you have locally. Meanwhile, the rest of the planet just uses Google Docs, and they have real-time editing, they have command resolution, they have everything you'd expect available there. Meanwhile, the rest of the planet should get the hell out of Google Docs, because I don't think it's a secure or private or in any way acceptable platform to do any enterprise or privacy sensitive stuff or anything whatsoever. We do in Quave already have a replacement for that. We have an only Office integration, which we've shipped with for years. It does provide document editing in the browser, which is good. But the UI and the UX is rather suboptimal. And we've had people asking us, can you please do a Collabora integration? And we started doing that. Collective.Collabora is the outcome of that. It's a combined effort. We wanted to have that in Quave, and Hannes already made a prototype for that in Quave. But then Imio also wanted that in their products. So I've made an effort to port this whole effort into a generic Plone add-on that we can use everywhere. I'll first show you the Quave integration. All is well, yeah, so that's the video. So in Quave, you go to a workspace, which is where we do our document management, and you navigate to the document. And then this is a preview of the document. It's just a graphic, but if you hit edit, it opens the Collabora editor. So this is a live WYSIWYG editor in the browser. You can change stuff, and that's auto-saved. You know, the buttons are there just to reassure people. It's auto-saved immediately. I will show you the architecture later. And then you can also hey, we see people joining. Yeah. So we can see people coming into the session here. So we now have a joint session with 3 people editing. I can see Dolly's edit there. I can take over from her edit and say, oh, I want that to be a separate bullet point. And she will see that as well in her session. This is all reflected immediately in everybody else's session. So we have real-time collaborative editing. And we also have commands like, oh, Christian left a command there, and I can flag that command as resolved. And that command is actually stored within the file. So this is the core, this is the Collabora editing experience, and it's available in Quave. And I will show you later that the Quave integration is actually just a very thin layer. This is actually just Collective.Collabora doing all the work. So this is what it looked like in Plone 6. Normally you have an edit button, but I renamed that to edit metadata, and I made an open action. And why is it open and not edit? Because if you don't have edit rights, but view rights, you can still open the document in Collabora and you will get the full view. So you open it, and then depending on your rights, which are checked in the backend, you will either have an edit interface or you will have a read-only interface. And that looks like this. So the normal document actions are still there. You can do the metadata editing for the description and the title. You can save and close. Like I said, that's just to reassure users and make a natural user experience. Or you can download the file, which is what you normally do in Plone. So those are actually still available. So that's Plone 6. This is the equivalent in Plone 5. You have the open action. If you click it, you get the Collabora interface. It's also available in Plone 4. There's the open action. It shows up as a tab in Plone 4. And if you click it, you can edit the document live, and you just have the same editing experience as you had in all the other things. To install this, There's multiple components here. First, apart from Plone, you need the Collabora server, of course. And basically you need like a front-end proxy in order to host the domain or host the Collabora service on the same base URL as your site. You can do that separately, but then you lose cross-origin resource facilities like full screen. I kept wondering, why doesn't full screen work? And I found out it's because I do development in a way that it disables the CORS facilities. So if you want, a truly full-featured integration, you need to have like, a Collabora and a Plone proxy. So there's a lightweight Nginx demo config shipped with this. So this is all included in Collective.Collabora. This is the reference Docker Compose, which just, it configures Collabora. It maps in the Collabora config, which has some crucial variables that you need to set. So this is a working demo environment, and you can adapt that to your own deployment environment. At least you have a working reference here. It sets some admin, and here's the Nginx, and that also maps in a working Nginx config, which is hard-coded again to this whole setup. It opens Plone on port 6180, for example, because that's peculiar to this development setup. So that's, a working reference implementation. Don't put it in production like that. Just, start to tweak it in the way that it works for you. On the Plone side, it's just build out. You add Collective.Collabora and you install it in the add-on panel. And that again, the default configuration for the Collective.Collabora add-on matches the default deployment that I shipped. If you change anything in either, you will have to change the other part and make sure that it works again. The architecture of this is a bit counterintuitive if you're from the Plone side. So what we see here are three major components or machines. We have the green, we have the Plone thing. In orange is the Collabora server. And in black, we have the browser. So how it works is that you saw the open action. That's just a document action. That loads a HTML page, which is Collabora edit, which is tied to the file object. It's bound to that in XML. It doesn't actually do anything with the file other than take the metadata and give that to Collabora. It doesn't actually change the file. We need to be really clear about that. It takes the file metadata, it gives it to an iframe, an iframe URL that it loads, or a Collabora URL which opens an iframe. So we open an iframe on Collabora. Collabora takes over with a WebSocket. It internally opens a session where other users can join in as well. And from this session, a second view is hit. And this is where all the heavy lifting is done, is in the Collabora WOBI interface method. And that's the one that actually reads the file that is displayed. And it's also the one that actually writes the file for any changes. So this is just like, you could cut this. The actual writing is all done here. And that also has implications for if you want to integrate this in a custom product, because this is almost nothing the Collabora edit. It's just the launching of the stuff. It's just a smart URL that you need to open. And then this is all below the hood, basically. This is all backend work, so it doesn't actually change the UI. So that makes it actually pretty easy to integrate that in a full Plone site. Development was quite a challenge. And a big shout out to Hannes, who figured out how to work all of this, because I started based on a working prototype that Hannes developed in Quave. And it's quite a beast, this WOBI protocol, to get everything working together, to get the JavaScript correct, to get all the calls correct, and the authentication right and everything. So I had a working base to start with, and I started generalizing that. And because of the business case at IMIO, which we'll touch on later, this needed to work in Plone 4. It actually didn't need to work on archetypes, but once I'm busy, why stop? So this was something like a reverse time travel. I was around when Plone 2.5 was the thing. So I've seen all of these technologies. So now I started working backwards. I had a working Quave implementation. I started changing that into a working Plone 6.1 base implementation. Basically stripping the whole thing from Quave, making Collective.Collabora as a standalone package that can handle that. And you saw the screenshots of that, and that just works. Okay, that's Plone 6. Then you go to Plone 5.2 on Python 3. That's a matter of tuning a few package pins, and that worked. Then we had to go to Plone 5.2 on Python 2.7. That was far more painful, of course. And you lose stuff like template strings, or string interpolations. You need to go back to tull interpolations. You lose, yeah. I felt like I was losing fingers all the time. It's like, oh, I'm used to this. Oh yeah, we didn't do that. I didn't have that back in the day. So I kept chopping off stuff until I had it working there. Then I backported to Plone 4.3, which wasn't that eventful on dexterity. Once this was working in 5.2 and Python 4.3 wasn't that big a jump. Archetypes was a different thing again, because the whole file interface is very different in archetypes than it is in dexterity. So I wrote an adapter for dexterity that uses an adapter for archetypes that uses the dexterity interface on a file object. So I could actually have the same call flow there. So that's step by step how I got everything back to work in all these versions. Doing that, of course, requires that I have development versions, for all of these variants. And then I have a test matrix that covers and some of these versions, these are multiple Python versions for this one. Each one of those Plone versions has multiple compatible Python versions. So that's where Tox comes in. Tox is much more powerful than build-out. Actually, Tox uses build-out to drive all of this, but this then gives me the whole matrix of everything I can do. It was quite a bit of fun to get that to work, let me put it like that. I found out that having a space there is crucial, or it won't work. Shit like that. You have to figure that out and find it out. So this is the full environment list. We have 11 environments that are supported in here. Basically, for all the Plone versions I gave you, all the officially supported Python versions that are there. And that then runs the tests. If you run the tests locally across all versions, you will have 100% test coverage. It's also not that much code, as you can see. So that's cool. And then I also ship this product with the makefile, because I just like everything scripted. I don't like, I like documentation, but I like it better if I don't have to read the documentation and I just have a working, give me 3 commands and everything is up and running. So the makefile basically uses Tox again to, instead of instantiating a test environment, it can also instantiate development environments. So in addition to the 11 test environments, there's also 5 development environments where the package is installed in development mode and you can just edit it live. And you can add it in parallel. So I could have, and these are all running on separate ports, so I could have all 5 development variants open and in browsers at the same time and in editors at the same time. So you can, I can easily, do a change and verify that it still works in yours. Apart from the tests, just actually do UI testing there. I tried, of course, to get all of that to work on GitHub as well, all 11 matrix versions, but that doesn't work. There were 2 complications. First of all, GitHub seems to work with the Tox version matrix, but it does not. Its parsing of the Tox version matrix is not powerful enough. So it starts to instantiate, it starts to run combinations that are not invalid from a Tox perspective and that are simply not valid. So instead of using the full Tox matrix, I just said these are the Python versions, these are the Plone versions, and then I started removing every invalid combination explicitly here and saying exclude that. So that solved that. The other thing was that there's no Python 2.7 support. I tried for 1 or 2 days, there's multiple people saying it should be able to get it to work. I tried 3 or 4 variants and that's not working. So I just gave up on that because I can still run the tests locally. So basically, GitHub is nice, but if you really want to work in this package, you need to make sure that the tests pass locally. As already indicated, the Quave integration for this it's almost a no-op. I have a button view, which gives me the buttons. Before I hit Collabora, open Collabora, I showed you that, it's the open button basically. And I have a edit view. That doesn't even override the template. So we just reuse in Quave, we reuse the Collective.Collabora template. And the only thing I'm doing here is giving it the version Quave, which hooks into a bit of JavaScript in Collabora, where, the Collective.Collabora package is aware that there needs to be some tweaking of the iframe on load. And this one, saying it's Quave, the script there knows what are the exact parameters to make it fit into Quave. And that's all there is to it. It's super lightweight. And this is the CSS I'm using to integrate that into Quave. I'm just styling the buttons and I'm styling the iframe. And that brings me to the other integration that we want to talk about. which is what the email guys did.
Thank you, Guido. So I'm Benoit, and this is Chris, and we work at Imio on a document managing app, which is called Docs. So, for a little bit of context, what is Docs? It is for public services, so really for municipalities, employees of municipalities, and it is focusing on incoming and outgoing mail. That is paper mail and electronic mail, obviously. And so the employees of the municipalities can really manage the mail coming, outgoing on this app, Plone app, obviously. Specifically, they can generate outgoing mails. We use Collective.Document generator for that, and it requires document editing. That is, the employee, they will really edit the documents to complete them in order to print and send it by mail. For that, we use external editor. There are some shortcomings coming with that. It is an hybrid infrastructure, so we have a cloud app, but we also have to install the external editor on the client, but also the Office software. It's deprecated, discontinued. Basically, it doesn't work in Plone 6, so it was a big roadblock for us into our Plone 6 migration. We had to get rid of that. And also client expectations were not met. Simply put, satisfaction were not great. A lot of people didn't like the old UI of LibreOffice. We use actually LibreOffice for the Office software installed on the client machine. And clients were really used of something like the Google Docs and things like that. So really, they wanted something more modern. That's why we started to use Collective.Collabora.
Yes, so my name is Chris. I work at Imio as a developer, and I work on the integration. Let me just stop the video. On the integration of Collective.Collabora in our Docs application. And I'm going to show you two demos, one before Collabora and after Collabora, and how it impacts the workflow for end user. So this is the application. This is an example of mail. On the left, you have all the metadata of mail. And on the right, you have currently no file, and we want to write a new file to send to a citizen, for example. So let's write a new file from a template. It downloads the file, open it in LibreOffice, and then you can edit it and do what you want to do to send to the citizen. And once you're done with editing, you can close the file. It will save on the server, and then you have it on the right of the application. It takes a bit of time to validate the editing, and then there you go. But as Benoit said, we are still using Plone 4. We would like to migrate to Plone 6 and have a better and more modern infrastructure. So Collabora can rescue us. And, as Guido said, it's also available for Plone 4, so we can migrate our stack step by step, and piece by piece, starting with Collabora. And we can give up on the external editor. That is a lot of headache because we don't have the end on the machines of all our clients. And if there is a problem, they have to call us. We have to open like a TeamViewer session and debug what happened. with Collective.Collabora, everything is on our server and we can act on it fairly easily. And now this is the new version of docs in Collabora. Same as before, we have an ongoing mail with metadata on the left and a mail we want to generate from template that will appear on the right. So by generating a new mail, it opens in a new tab with Collabora View and all the new UX you can expect. Every UI option you want to edit the mail, the font policy, the font, the color, or what you want. And then it auto-saves back to our mail view. It's already there. Just need a bit of refresh to update the document viewer view, which is another add-on. And we are also using a custom workflow. So there I just set the mail as sent. If it's sent, you cannot edit it anymore. And of course, we can see that the edit button next to the mail disappears. And if you want to open the mail in Collabora anyway, you won't be able to edit it. That's it for the demo. Now I'll let the floor back to Guido for the closing words.
Yeah, so to summarize what you just saw, we now have in Plone, we have real-time collaborative editing with a much better user experience than launching an Office suite. Also much better than the only Office integration that we had so far in Quave, because this runs within the view. You have all the Chrome, all the buttons, all the basic UI is still there. You don't take people to a different page where they suddenly have a completely different UI. You remain within your UX. You saw how they embedded it in their product. And we have multi-user collaboration. It works out of the box in any Plone Classic version so far. I have concerns that we won't be able to support 6.2 and 4.3 at the same time because of the namespace and package naming thing. So we may have to ship a version 2 of Collective.Collabora to indicate that we're dropping support for Plone, old Plones. And it works in Plone Classic so far because I'm not conversant in Volto. I would expect, but then I don't know, I would expect it to be pretty easy to build this into Volto, and I would love to see Collective.Collabora ship with Volto support also out of the box, if that makes sense. And that is like the same as it's easy to custom integrate that. Once I had the Collective.Collabora package working in all the Plone versions, I then still had to get it working for Quave, but that wasn't a lot of work. It's mostly testing that it actually works, and no weird hiccups. I don't know how much effort you spent on making it work in docs.
There are just to understand how it works.
Yeah.
First line, but then just install the product.
Yeah.
Compose and
yeah. So the thing ships with a lot of resources included. There's of course the downloadable hack on Pipey. There's also the source you can see on Collective.Collabora on GitHub, which includes, like we said, it includes a working Docker Compose setup and everything. So you have like a full working development environment there. There's extensive documentation on Read the Docs. I made sure to document the call flow as best as I could and that it works, and also to document the gotchas of actually deploying all the things you need to fix there. I also wrote a really long blog post on my company blog on cosend.nl, which goes into all the technical details, which might be interesting for other people who are struggling with cross-compatibility. And for example, stuff we didn't touch on here is like, how do you even release an egg that works in Plone 6 and also works in Python 2.7, and that was also quite a gotcha. So there's like a whole all the obstacles I encountered in implementing this. I documented those, and I later published that in the blog post. And that's what we have. I think we may still have time for questions.
Yes. Okay. Very interesting. Okay.
Can you talk about the life cycle of a document? So basically, when a document docx is stored in Plone, you basically perform some kind of checkout. It goes over into Collabora, right? And then at some point, you basically need to turn it back into Plone, or is every change directly saved in Plone?
It's the latter. So my mental model, and I'm not sure if that's fully correct, but my mental model is that Collabora fetches first a copy of the document from Plone, and it loads that into its own session. Let me quickly scroll up because there's an architecture question. Let me just have the visual there. Yeah, oh, there it is. So we have the file, it's living in Plone, it's always stored in Plone, but from our perspective, there's like an ephemeral, like, you know, a lightweight proxy object, which is the session, which is where also other people can edit in. And then Collabora makes sure that it mirrors any change here. It makes a commit directly on the file.
Who decides that at which point a document goes back from Collabora into Plone?
Well,
So
it stays here, but it does a write there. So basically, on every change you make, a write is made onto the file.
okay, and that's actually efficient.
Yeah, it's a good question because I was concerned about the reindexing and preview generation, but somehow the modification event, and maybe it's in my own
Do you have
code,
some
I
experience
forgot.
with very large documents, like let's say 100 pages? Because in our case,
So maybe it's not. So conceptually, it's auto-saved. But what happens is that if you hit the save button or if you hit the exit button, it's like this is all fail-safe, that it makes sure that it commits that stuff to Plone. But we don't have, like, you don't have on every keystroke, you don't have a reindex. I checked that as well.
That's up later.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry, we don't have any more time. We have another presentation starting here at half. But thank you one more time.